So looking at this idea of, because it's there anyway, how can we add more meaning? And how can we learn lessons from this art of giving gifts? So let's talk first about the gifts. We call them gifts that miss the mark. Gifts that miss the mark, or gifts that you're not really too excited about. So when I think about gifts that I don't really like, I think about them in three ways. Okay, these are gifts that miss the mark, okay? So either I will sure receive it and find a way kasi sayang and I like the person who gave it to me, so I'll find a way to use it. Or I'll receive it, but I'm thinking maybe I can regift it. Maybe in some white elephant or some garage sale. Or I'd rather not. Diba? So this is a preference. So given a choice, would you just receive it and find a way to use it? Receive it with the option to regift it? Or you'd rather not receive it at all? Okay. All right, so may I just invite you to do a quick annotate? You can stamp or draw a line. No judgment here. Okay, no judgment here at all. I'm just really curious about what we do. I have my own thoughts. I have my own thoughts. Actually, I think everything applies. Okay, but I do have a preference. Okay, so I wonder if you are driven by the giver. You don't have to answer me, but I'm also wondering what drives us here. I wonder what leads us to our decision. Is it the gift itself? Possibly. It could also be the giver. And we'll talk about those two things. When you talk about gift giving, there is your effort to give. There's receiving. There's also your the gift itself.
Some actually specified the gifts that they would not receive
Re-give.
or re-give.
And they write pretty well. They write pretty well
Yes.
on the board. Okay, thank you for thank you for specifying. I didn't ask you to, but you did, so I prefer that. Nice mugs. That's cool. Lotion, candies, yeah. Anything sugar is also something that I probably regift because sayang, I mean I'm not going to take it. Okay. Oh, we're the same. Coffee beans, I don't like. Yeah, I'll find a way. Kape pa rin, di ba? Kape pa rin.
Agree, agree. Who knows? You might find something you like.
Exactly. I mean, there have been times like what Paulo said that, when my elitism comes in and then I don't like it, then, oh, okay. Okay, not
Well,
bad.
just to share, sometimes it's not the item, it's the person. So if I don't like the person, sometimes
What if you like the person but you don't like the gift? Paano yan?
okay lang. I'll keep it. Pero if
You,
I don't like the person, sorry.
what if you
May,
like
may,
the
may
gift? But if it's a fantastic gift, you love the gift but you don't like the person, paano yan?
oh, hindi.
Tough.
Di pa
Tough.
din. Tough, tough, tough.
Tough.
Pride. This is pride talking.
I'm good you have self-awareness. All right, so thank you. So so it's a bit awkward. Again, I guess we appreciate the gesture. Whatever happens, it is a gift. Yet there is an effect, but there's something that happens when we do receive gifts that what we call that miss the mark. So let's say sige, so I'd like everyone to just chat your answer if you do know the answer to this one. So let's complete the statement. Okay. From Forrest Gump. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is dated, but I know a lot of you have watched it, even if you're on the younger end. Life is like a box of chocolates. Yeah, so please complete the statement for this iconic line from the movie Forrest Gump. You'll never know what you're gonna get. Yes. We have fast typers over here. That is correct. You never know what you're going to get. And if you, but so there are, you know what I'm talking about. Let's say there's a box of chocolates, and let's say there's no description. But often when you open it, there's when you open it, you turn over the lid or the covering, then they describe what's there. So imagine if you did not have that guide or that código. You really don't know what you're gonna get. There's just so many kinds of chocolates. There's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate, there's coconut, there's with truffle, there's pralines, there's nuts. So in the end, you really never know what you're going to get. Okay. And so when you look at gifts that miss the mark, All right. The reality is, whether, I mean, this is really true. I mean, we don't get it perfectly, whether we're the giver or the receiver. And there's an anxiety that, especially to people who matter, we're unsure of what to give. And also, we become surprised with what we receive. So there's reality, there's anxiety, and there's uncertainty in this. Even if you enjoy doing it, there's always that. Diba? So, um, all right, so what do I give? I'm not sure what would make the other person happy, what would be appreciated para hindi naman sayang, para hindi ma-regift. Minsan yan ang iisip ko eh. What can I give that will not be regifted at the very least, right? And then, or often we're also surprised at what we get. Okay. And this study says that 40%, so this is a study on a US study, okay, not a Philippine study, but I can think of the number would probably be similar, are somewhat or very stressed about not finding gifts that were meaningful to their loved ones. Generic gifts are not bad, but they're still a gift. Eh. Yet for many of us, especially for family, close friends, we want the gift to make a difference, to really be appreciated. So there's really stress there, there's tension there. Okay, so why do we give gifts? Okay, so a common mindset is, and this mindset doesn't mean you're not necessarily that you don't want to, but even if there's a sense of joy or happiness, the mindset could be, well, I have to. I might as well enjoy because I really have to anyway. So there's obligation, there's expectation, there's tradition. Okay, but there's also image. You don't want people to think that ang cheap mo naman or you're so ungenerous. Di ba? So parang may nalala yata si Paolo dun sa cheap or ungenerous. Ah. Oo.
No, I was just thinking recently because I learned of this, and I'll be honest, I never had this before, but we've been attending parties for our kids. And one of the things my wife says is, you want the value of the gift you're giving. This is not Christmas, but for birthdays, for example. You want the value of the gift to be more than the value of what they did to prep for your presents, like kunyari my meal.
Ah, oo,
So I was
oo.
thinking, okay, it seems to make sense, but I had never thought of that before.
Or like, yeah, related to that would be like, for example, you're going to a party. So you think about how much would they have spent on my food, on my plate, diba? Okay, so I should give a gift that's at least close to, or at least parang bawi naman siya dun sa ginastos niya sa
Oo.
akin.
So
Yeah,
pag
something
fine
like that.
dining, medyo high pressure siya.
A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So the common mindset is out, whether it's obligation or tradition or expectation. But it doesn't mean you don't like it. It just means that's what's driving it, your gift giving. Okay. Um, so let's go to the other side about the gifts that really had an impact on you. Okay. So think about not necessarily Christmas, but think from last Christmas up to the whole year, whether it was your birthday or any other occasion, and you received the gift that you really liked. So why did you really like it? So think of these high impact gifts that you've received recently. All right. Why did it affect you so positively? All right. So may I invite you to chat. Okay. So this will be our second formal chat after the Forrest Gump line. So recall these high impact gifts. Why did these affect you positively? Why did you like them? Why did you really keep them? Why did you really appreciate them? So I'll give you a few moments to answer. Cash. Yes, cash, maybe even a GC, because there's freedom. Okay. So I think sometimes cash, it's you can see it in two ways. It will be kasi walang maiisip, or the opposite, because the person might know that, it will be better for you to choose. You're the type who really likes choosing, then maybe it's better to give cash, but it gives you independence. Thank you. And gives you the chance to really get what you want. Okay. Well thought of. Yeah, so it's really not the actual, let's say, monetary value, but because it showed that the person is thinking of you. Okay. Yeah, and so similar to Zaira, sabi ni, um, it's about the sender. So it's a sender who matters. Unexpected, so it's a surprise. Okay, it's a surprise. A favorite, I like that. So the person knows your favorite. That like that. What Ruth said, my favorite author. Could be a surprise. It could be giving you independence. Could be something that you feel was really thought of. The person put some thought. Similar to what Lean or Lene, sorry, trying to read your nickname. Sometimes you don't wow. So that really means a person knows you. The person gives you something you didn't think you needed or wanted, but you actually do. Yeah. Okay. That's cute, sabi ni Karen. It reminds you of the person. Yeah. Obviously, you like the person to be reminded of the person. Ah, a message, the gift. Okay. So there's a relation. There's a relation to your relationship. Okay, nice. All right. So if you look at it, it could be the link to the giver themselves. It could be the surprise, the thought that was put into it, right? Um, so in the next slide, you will see we collated your answers to the registration question about the gifts you'd like to receive. So I'm thinking that these are also high impact gifts for you. Okay, so let's look at your answers. All right, and as you can see, it's a mix of uh, tangible and intangible. Okay, all right, and yeah, so it's a mix also here. Um, I guess because it's a corporate event, so you also answered this in light also of the professional area. So feedback, vacation time, diversity, interesting time, a very big time. Okay, trust, autonomy, interesting. Okay, so trust, feedback, to get to know the team better. What is this? Anything I cannot afford to buy. I think that's my favorite. So the person also knows your budget. Okay, good. Um, Genuine appreciation, so feedback. Salary increase. Okay, it's okay. I think everyone will want some form of increase. All right. Okay, so these things tap into what we're looking for, whether it's the giver or it really taps into something that you're looking for. But you're looking for that appreciation, you're looking for that recognition, you're looking for things, I guess, that will help you, not just in that time you give it, but will help you after. Diba? So that's it. Okay, so thank you for all your answers. All right. So when you look at it, as we master the art of giving gifts, okay, so typically these gifts elicit appreciation. It could be, it expresses how valuable your unique value or how valuable you are to that person. Gratitude, even remorse, for example, it's a gift that shows that you're asking for forgiveness or that you've forgiven or you're saying sorry. So appreciation, value, gratitude, remorse. I think a lot of our themes, if you were to distill them, really go to these four. Okay, so when you look at the impact we're looking for, and imagine if we think about this in terms of our day to day, beyond our family and friends and loved ones. What about the ones that we don't necessarily love in that sense, diba? But we want to support, which are people in our office. So my parents are my boss in the family business, so I do love my those bosses. But the other bosses we don't really love in that sense, but we do want to express it, their value to us. Yeah, okay. I think Paulo also has a parent boss in some part of his life. That's
That's
also
true.
something we share. Yes, we do have a parental boss,
That is
a
true.
real
That is
parental boss. Okay. All right. So the effective mindset now, moving from expectation, obligation, tradition to something to what is mutual and enriching. All right. So it's about the relationship and the uniqueness of the relationship. That's where you want to personalize. Okay. Even let's say in the previous slide, your answers, let's say there's something like feedback, trust. Those seem to be generic, yet they can be personalized to what you're needing at that point. Like trust. Trust can be delegating more. Trust can be sharing more information about what's going on in the company. So you can still, yeah, even the intangibles, but those can really still be customized or personalized to the point that they are mutually enriching. So it's not one way. And that's what we want all our relationships to be, in one way or another. And gift giving is a way of getting there, getting that done. So again, the impact comes from the strengthened relationship. Even the smallest of gifts, yeah, but the cheapest of gifts can still end up strengthening the relationship. Okay. But that means intentionality. And I think that's where all the stress comes from. Me, I love bazaars. Kasi nga, whether it's the Changyet type, or sometimes I go to the higher end bazaars like let's say Katutubo, Artifino. So, sometimes just to get ideas and then look online for something cheaper. Okay. Minsan ganun, diba? Pero I love bazaars because they give choice. And they also allow, because of all the choices I don't do online shopping. I like to touch and see what I'm shopping for. It also helps me connect more to the receiver when I actually see it and get to hold it. But that requires intentionality to go there, whether on site or online. And then also to choose among the many things available. So intentionality is really key to what we want to happen. And in relationships, there's also something, there's an idea that really leads to more intentionality. And and what we'd want is to make it so that the impact is more meaningful and will create a bigger difference in the relationship. And in Franklin Covey, one of my favorite concepts, one of my favorite constructs is the metaphor we use for our relationship. And often we look at relationship as like it's valuable. So sometimes it's easy to relate it to something financial because financial is our most common value. All right. So we're referring to the emotional bank account. For those who've taken 7 habits, this should be familiar. So let us now refresh you and show you a different perspective and application. For those who don't know this is a fantastic, for me, it's a fantastic concept. It'll really help you be intentional and really master the art of gift giving when you have this as your foundation. So an emotional bank account. And in a regular savings account, we do two things, right? We deposit or we withdraw. Okay, so in a regular account, diba, when you put in, it's a deposit, so the account increases. If you withdraw, the account decreases. So similarly, that's what a relationship is. It's a reflection of the level of the strength of your account, and it can increase or decrease, deposit or withdrawal. Okay. And a deposit is something that strengthens trust, has positive impact, and expresses appreciation. Okay, so I won't ask you to chat, but think about it. Okay, so as you go through your day to day, beyond the tangible, think also about the intangible, the day to day things that are deposits. What are the things that people give you, that people do for you, that strengthen your relationship, that strengthen the trust between you? Those are deposits. Could be simple as greeting you sincerely, or pwedeng inviting you to this is tangible, inviting you to a pizza, updating you on the latest milestone. On the other hand, you have withdrawals. These are the things that erode trust, that create negative feelings. And withdrawals are, a lot of withdrawals are unintended. I'd like to think that most of the time we withdraw unintentionally, meaning, sometimes we have the right intention, but it comes out the wrong way. Let's say you're enacting, using the code of conduct, you're disciplining, you're giving feedback for improvement. Our intention is there to help, but sometimes it's not taken well. Okay. Um,
To
that's a
add to that,
withdrawal.
Eric, if I may, well, as we were preparing for this, actually, so there were some statistics you showed earlier, and in the same study, we didn't put it here, but some of the feedback actually said that when people receive gifts that maybe they don't connect with or they feel like hindi pinag-isipan, it actually takes away from their sense of engagement and the sense of
Mm-mm.
being appreciated in the team. So just relating to the withdrawal. And so yeah, I guess that adds to the pressure of the gift giving, no? But yeah, that's how much impact gifts can have on us, and it can be either positive or negative.
Interesting. And that's something that we'd also like to cover. What Paolo introduced as the idea of a gift being a withdrawal. I mean, my common idea is that whatever the gift is, it's a deposit because it is a gesture. It was given to me. All right. So when it comes to all of these, like feedback, for me in my mind, it's a deposit because my intention is to help. Okay. Let's say when I'm strict, my intention is to teach. It's all when I push my team. Let's say in my business, I push my team hard. My intention is for sales so that I can give you a better increase so we can maintain our business. So I don't have to lay off anyone. So that whole idea is really to deposit, and yet not necessarily. Okay, so deposits and withdrawals. So that will be our frame as we look at how to do this more intentionally. Yeah, the thought that counts, I guess not as much anymore. Not anymore. I think in days past, I think we were more forgiving, di ba, Pao? I think we were
Yeah.
more forgiving. Now, not as much anymore.
Yeah. Pang Gen X ata yung saying na yun, Eric.
Gen X. Okay, Zaire, I'm glad there's recognition here. Okay. I'd hate the person less. So may impact. So there is impact. So even if it's a low bank account. So remember, what Zaira mentioned was actually illustrates the emotional bank account. Diba? So let's say this is zero, you're adding, and but when you withdraw, it goes back. So maybe this person Zaira doesn't really appreciate is down here in the relationship, but with a good gift, wow, it can rise up a little bit. So from -10, -1 na lang sa
Yes.
Zaira.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe one gift away from a positive. Okay. Especially if meaningful yung gift. Diba? Yan. So imagine the impact if it's a meaningful. That's where the effective mindset comes in. Eh. So as we go through this, think of specific people that I'll invite you to do that. Because at the very end of our day, I'll be asking, we have a simple action plan template for you to fill in the end of the day, at the end of this session. So as you listen to me, as you think about the things you'd like to give that have an impact, also think of particular people who you feel that this idea of EBA makes sense. So what are the EBAs? Again, the emotional bank accounts you want to strengthen, or they are negative and you want to bring them to a positive. They could already be here, you want it even higher, or they could be here, you want to bring them up on the positive end. Okay. All right. Okay. So as we thought about it, think about your examples of deposits, think about your examples of withdrawals. Okay. And sometimes even just the absence of an action can become a withdrawal. Right? So the person didn't do anything, but that's exactly it. Okay, and I've heard of friendships that went when I talked to. I remember I had a friend who had a falling out, and then they said, "But the person didn't do anything. The person didn't say anything." That's exactly it, Eric. He could have defended me, but he didn't say anything. So sometimes the non-action can be a withdrawal. All right. So knowing the idea of deposits and withdrawals is at the heart of gift giving in a way that will make a difference. Since you're going to give a gift anyway, let's make the gift count. Let's make our time and our effort and our money count, so to speak. Okay. Okay. All right. So relationships thrive when our emotional bank accounts are filled. So our founder, Dr. Covey, would say that life is really about EBAs, that our life is a journey of really filling EBAs. And sometimes the EBA can also be people we don't really know. Let's say when you do service, advocacy, mission, you don't know them, but maybe in that moment. Syempre, we talk about EBAs, the EBAs that stay over the long term. I think those are the EBAs that always come to mind. And yet we can also think about the moment-to-moment EBAs, people who you encounter, people you meet for the first time, people you might not see again. Those are also that the EBA can also apply to those kinds of encounters. Okay, now we go to this question, which was introduced earlier. Can gifts be withdrawals? Can gifts be withdrawals? And I think we know the answer to that. So this study, and you'll see the source at the bottom right of the slide. So 2022 and 2023, 78%, that's pretty high, are disappointed by gifts they receive. And I think for me, this reflects mostly people who you expect good gifts from. Diba? If it's a first-time associate, diba? Okay lang. I mean, it's more the gesture. But with many people, it's really the gift itself. 31% that they found sometimes gifts made them feel worse. Okay, made them feel worse. Yeah, right. So again, the EBA is really whether it is in the moment or are more medium to long-term relationships. All right. So well, the obvious one would be on the personal side would be if it's a gift that you don't need. And let's say the person has been to your house, let's say, and then the person knows your house. And then the person gives you something that di naman bagay sa bahay mo. Or the person already saw you have, let's say, 10 of those already. Okay, but so you don't need more. So that can be like, oh, hindi niya the person didn't really think about it. Maybe the person was just rushing through. Maybe the person had something extra and was regifted. Diba? So when the person gives you something you don't like, these thoughts come into play. Generic, regift, rushed. Diba? Not really thinking of me. Yeah. Ikaw pa, if you were to have a category of what makes it a withdrawal for you? 'Di ba? Which of those applies to you? Kaya rin, think about it, 'di ba? Among those things I said, what about it makes it feel like a withdrawal?
I guess for me, yeah, when I don't need it, or and then this has happened rarely, but it has happened when it's something I don't need or I don't know what to do with, and then the person comes back and says, "Oh, hindi mo pa ginagamit yung regalo ko," and so there's that
Hala.
extra pressure of, "Oh my goodness."
Okay, now that's awkward. Yeah. And that makes it more painful, no? That
Yes, yeah. And actually, Eric, I was going to say, I've also done the regifting, but sometimes I get uncomfortable because I end up with this stash of things that I want to regift. Then they end up wondering, was this given to me by this person that I'm planning to
Yes.
regift it
So you
to?
need to make a list. Yes, you
Yes.
need to note. So you also need to have a gift received list. We all probably have gift giving list. Eh. That's a good point, Paolo. Let's not trust our memory. We are Gen X. We're already at that certain decade where there's no memory. Mm, yeah. So you expect if the person knows you, if there's a relationship, if there's EBA. So again, balik tayo sa EBA. If you don't have EBA with this person, it's okay because there's no expectation. But the higher the EBA, so again, you see the value of the EBA. The EBA helps you assess it. It helps you put into context what people do for you. Diba? So that also creates expectations, like the picture frame with with the plate inside. Okay, sorry about that, Ricky. Okay. When we're asked what we would like, we say kahit ano. Yeah. Not just Filipino, but I think, Zaira, when I look at sociology, there are cultures like ours that we think we're doing them a favor by not saying what we like, when actually it could be a favor um, where, um, where you be very specific. Eh. All right. So what I'll do now quickly I'll just ask you to give me a react, maybe a thumbs up or what. How many of you already send your friends and family your wish list? So I'd like just to see how many of you are already like that. You have a wish list that you already send to your family and friends. Siyempre, not everyone, but family and friends. May wish list ka na. Okay, so please react if you have adopted that practice. Like my niece does that. Eh. So my niece, she's Gen Z. So I've already received, so one already, two. I see one who does that. So we've already received her wish list. And she's done that over the years. Ako, masyadong din. So ito lang gawin ng Paolo like my niece. Meron siyang ranges. Less than 500. 500 to 1,000, 1 to 1,500, 1,500 plus. Okay. All right. So this is in Canva. So she's made her deck. Tapos may link na. May link na to Shopee or Lazada or the website na gusto niya para no mistakes. Okay. Do you do that,
Tapos may
Zaira?
ano pa, may
Ano?
date pa ng sale para para makatipid
Minsan
sila.
ganon. May suggestion, di ba? Kung kailan magsisale. Oo. Pwede, Elaine. It's possible that there's that sense of it's not proper, but maybe it's not. But maybe it is for some. Maybe it is for some. There's a website. One of our colleagues has a website, and then it's like a gift register. So you can indicate there, and it'll be crossed out. Yeah, and so one of us, and I think Javik knows who that is, has, unless you also have that, Javik, you have this wish list app na para siyang registry, di ba? Yeah, Karen, I think so. I mean, you know your family. I mean, in my family, I prefer that, that you just tell me what you want. Then I can tweak it a bit, but at least I know the at the very least I want to know category. But food, clothing, apparel, travel, diba? Yeah, that's the very least that's what I ask my family to tell me. Give me a theme or a category. But my niece talagang exacto. So no mistakes yan. Again, EBA tayo. Are you building EBA? Often we might think it's how you're building EBA. This idea of the wish list is EBA. The idea of getting something more expensive is EBA. So it's our expression of EBA. Yep, that's right. There's a link already, diba? So easy lang. Easy in our busy world today. Yeah. So for me, that's a deposit. Okay.
Actually, oo nga na, Eric. When we tell people what they want, what we want, especially when we're already asked, that can be a deposit because we make life easier for them. We take away from that the high stress of having to think about it.
Yeah, for me, especially the ones na I know will really go out of their way to give me a gift. Diba? Alam ko. Pag wala akong masabi, kape. Okay, tapos na. Kape. Kape. Okay, kape.
Or if you like the person and you like spending time, you can even say, magkape lang tayo, di ba? Let's spend an
Yes.
afternoon.
EBA, balik tayo sa deposits. Minsan, it's not actual just having coffee, kahit cheap coffee, but we're together, di ba? Nice. Again, see? So very quickly, we're all understanding the idea of EBA and how you can tweak EBA to really make a difference. You can tailor it to your audience because you know who you're dealing with. So it's really, for me, it's really a great way of applying EBA. In Seven Habits, this is part of as we move into the public victory, as we move into win-win thinking, that's where EBA comes in. Oh, masarap ang Dunkin' Donuts coffee, ah.
Agree.
Strong is good. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for engaging in our in our EBA topic, and I think this wish list really resonated with many of us. So imagine let's say you do have a wish list that's super complete. Then someone still gives you something that's not on that list that you don't like. Parang mali na talaga, di ba? And what if it's not even in the same category? Like what Elaine mentioned. At least you know it. But what if there's what you gave that person is not even in any category that was on the Canva? Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, di ba? All right. Unless it's a surprise, pwede. Again, depende on your intention. So we want our gifts in the also in our office to strengthen and deepen our relationship. That's the whole point. So that's why we go back to the idea of uniqueness, personalization. And even if it's a generic gift, but you know the person wants it. Like me, I got a coaster, diba? But the person knows I do like coasters. And coasters are important. And I like different coasters for different occasions. So it's kind of generic. And yet there's a personal touch to it. So that's the meaning of personalized. Not necessarily it has to be unique, but there's meaning. And you know that the person will really enjoy it. Okay. All right. So how can we best decide what the most appropriate gift would be and express? So we'll now give you some, we'll go into the more practical, we'll give you some practical tips as we head on to the, I guess, the bottom third of our time together. So understanding people, applying empathy. Empathy is always talked about, yet we still have not really grasped the breadth or the depth of what empathy is. And this is empathy. Empathy, a part of the essence of empathy is understanding and what we do with that understanding. So it's not just understanding and that's it. But because of that understanding, we take action. And action that comes from true empathy, from understanding, is how we personalize. Whatever it is, but it comes from really understanding where that person is coming from. Okay, so if you know habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Diba? That's where empathy comes in. Okay, so two things, right? Two things. So when especially again, whether personal or professional, we think two broad areas are engagement and listening. Okay, so engaging regularly and meaningfully and listening actively. So let's talk about engaging. All right, let's talk about engaging. All right. We're coming up to a while. So we have back-to-back polls. We just have one set of back-to-back polls, which we'll do in a few moments. All right. So engaging regularly. So the common mindset is it's more need-based. It's more reciprocity only. And this is not bad, especially in the office. I mean, but we're not naman friends with all our office mates. Eh. So there's a need and we fulfill that need. There's reciprocity, there's cooperation, there is teamwork. But knowing it, so it's more transactional. Okay. The effective mindset is with intentionality and understanding, um, um, the transaction goes beyond that because we know what they need, we know where they are, and we're giving them something that meets that need where they are. Okay. So not just looking at what you need and that's it, but looking at where they are, matching that to that need, and making sure it comes from that understanding of what they need and what would matter to them. All right. So again, going deeper, understanding, but going it at a deeper level, and knowing that because it meets them where they are, it's more transformative even in that moment. Okay. Now let's go to a poll. So on your screen you will have. I'd like to know which ones. Let's make it. Let's make it. What you'd like to do. All right. So let's make that the question in the poll. These things will come up in the poll, and you can choose at most two. So looking at idea now of EBA, when you talk about engaging those who are important, what one or two things would you think you are being called to meet people where they are and to deposit? So as you can see, for both lists, the first and the fifth are the same because we believe that those are universal, but the middle three are more catered to the realm, whether it's personal or professional. And needs. So Paolo put on chat idea of needs coming from the where they are. Okay, so looking at really um, getting it's hard not to think of a habit here. So it's really win-win. But you look at needs based and fulfilling each other's needs. That's really where the idea of meet you where you are comes from. All right, thank you. So I'll end the poll now. So thank you for answering. Let's share our results. All right. So in the personal, the highest two, understanding and daily conversations. And a conversation, of course, we'd prefer something audio or video, but messaging and, engaged messaging. I've had messaging conversations wherein we'd spent an hour messaging. So I'm focused. That's really all I'm doing. It's really just messaging. Because you have to wait, diba? You have to wait. You have to wait for the answer. And I'm still at the generation, Pao, that I'm still not at the, yung, hindi ko pa na-master yung one idea per line. I have one whole message with one, two, three, but all in one message. But I'm
I can
getting
so
better.
relate.
I'm getting better at the younger ones na talagang, which I think, one thought per, para mas madaling replyan, di ba? One
I
thought.
agree. Actually, I've had several almost disagreements where I go, hindi mo naman sinagot eh. And then they go, ang dami mo kasing tanong.
They don't know what to answer.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's an example of meeting people where they are understanding, di ba? Okay, so okay, I'm learning. Zaira is laughing at us oldies. So I can see it now. I can see it
To
in her
add to that,
eyes.
Eric, I also cannot connect yet with the ones who just send hearts or thumbs up. Para sa akin, medyo ano pa rin yun, negate pa rin
Ah,
yun.
so that's not a deposit for you, di ba? It can
Hindi
actually
pa,
be
hindi pa.
withdrawal. Yeah.
Ah,
Me also. I mean, for me, sana people are, I think more and more people are more intentional with emojis. Because you can say, oh, there's an event tomorrow. You can heart it, but does that mean you're attending? I don't know. Diba? So make
agree.
it clear, diba? Make it clear. So either state it or have some emoji that will really reflect what you really mean. Yeah, so yun pwede yun. I guess it's generational. Looking at professional, I think the largest was understanding. And maybe because these relationships are not personal, they're not really love, but more support. So I think really understanding what makes them work and what is a deposit to them. I think that's it. Maybe when we know someone, we know what the deposit is to them. Okay. But when our EBA is low, okay. So as you look at this list, think about EBA. What can you do to increase your EBAs with people? Right. And in professional, I love the one-on-one. I think the one-on-one has, over the years, especially during lockdown, the spotlight on one-on-one has never been as bright. And up to today, also with mental health issues, diversity, all of that can be like, if you look at going beyond project updates, going beyond problem solving, understanding them, focusing on the person, all of that goes into a one-on-one. Maybe that's why on the personal side, part of the top answer was the frequent conversations. And that's really what really a one-on-one is. It's really a conversation that hopefully is a deposit. Ang hirap when your one-on-one is seen as a withdrawal. And as leaders, we want, for those who are team leaders here, let's be careful of that we're not withdrawing when we have a one-on-one. Okay. All right. The other is listen actively. Now, some other thoughts here. We don't want to listen to respond or to listen to address our questions. So it's really more focused on us. Effectively, we want to understand them. They are more important at that moment when we're listening. Of course, we also want them to understand where we're coming from, but that comes after we know where they're coming from. That is a deposit. About when we think of them first before we think of ourselves. Okay. And yeah, and so there are some ideas here. We won't do a poll anymore, but just some ideas that you may want to think about. So I'll give you a few moments to take this in and see what would you like to do. So if you notice, we're giving you now bits and pieces. We're giving you with the whole frame of EBA. Okay, so we're showing you how can you apply EBA in direct, immediate ways. That's cute. Connect before you correct. That's true. Yeah, the relationship first. Okay. Yeah, so biases are part of both. And also the last one, observing and sensing. All right, so how do we listen? Focusing, not setting aside our judgments. We all have judgments, but set them aside in the meantime as we take in what they're saying. So listening it's still undervalued. I think we still haven't mastered it. We've been talking about, in FranklinCovey, we've been talking about it decades, and still, we still haven't mastered it, and that's okay. Because there's really a lot that's going on, and often it's our needs that are more prevalent. Just like sometimes when we give our gifts, we're looking at our needs, our budgets, our time. We're looking and what's convenient. So again, giving gifts with EBA, with uniqueness, with engagement takes effort, but it's worth the effort, just like how listening is. So as you look at this slide, think about where you're having difficulty. What is your biggest gap with these things here? Like silence. Silence is difficult. Even like just being quiet and just taking in. And that's not easy, especially if the person is ranting and it's really heavy and you're just absorbing it, diba? That's hard. Okay. So take from this and see how you'd like to be a better listener. All right. So engaging and then also listening actively. Yeah, productivity and busyness. Productivity and busyness. And yeah, silent and giving space. Thank you, Karen. Right. I'm okay. Yeah, observing. And so really listening deeply and not just going at the surface. Okay. I guess productivity is often misunderstood. Like us in FranklinCovey, we have a course called the 5 Choices to Extraordinary Productivity. And productivity is not about output. because that will really change how you see EBA and gift giving. Okay, and you'll think that some things are just a waste of time because they're not productive. Okay, but when you look at when you look at productivity, a big part of it for us is the outcome, is the return. What are you getting out of it? If you're getting a better relationship, then it is really worth the time. Okay, so just changing how we look at things, diba, is really a big part of this art of gift giving. Okay, all right. So again, to summarize, engaging regularly and then listening actively. Okay, so we are going to our tail end. All right. So Christmas, the season of giving, let's apply this as we head into our parties, as we start going to fairs, going online, looking for deals. Let's also make sure, let's use this time to build our EBAs intentionally. And let us not withdraw. Okay, mahiya na kayo. Huwag tayong withdraw in our in our gift giving this season. Okay. I think if there's a minimum takeaway, sana yon, let's not make our gifts withdrawals. All right. So when is gift giving relevant? So actually anytime. I mean, there are, if you look at deposits, diba? So these are three of our big ideas as we consolidate. What we communicate, value, the impact that it increases EBA, and long-term, the relationship itself. All right. So what you are communicating, your message, what is its outcome, especially in that moment, and long-term, our relationships. All right. So when actually they're obvious, but the day to day, okay, the small things you do day to day really matter. So occasions, milestones, and actually any time that's appropriate. Again, timing, knowing the person. Diba, minsan if it's the wrong timing, even the best gift sometimes will fall flat because it's just not the right time. Not the right time to give the gift. Like not the right time to give feedback for improvement. Not the right time to stretch your team member. Even if you know it's good for their career, but they might be going through something that just not the right time. So gifts are for the receiver, true. They make them feel good. But what we'd like is it's more mutual. So let's remember that. That at the end of it all, yes, we do it I guess, off the top of our heads for the other person. Yet what is the effect on our EBA? So the mutuality of it all. Yeah, that's right. What Paulo mentioned that um, parang again the lack of the personalization can make it feel like a withdrawal. All right. So bottom line, the gratitude, appreciation, connection, reconnection. I think that's my favorite here on the right column. Reconnecting relatives, friends, people you've hurt, teammates, former team members, former bosses. Okay, although there's some bosses I don't want to reconnect to, but okay, but still there is reconnection here, and that's a gift, diba? When you reestablish a relationship, that's a gift also, and it's about engagement. Um, Getting and receiving. You also like to receive naman also meaningful gifts. And now when you send that message that you give meaningful gifts, you give personal gifts, you give gifts that engage, I think people will see it and people will reciprocate, even if that's not your intention. Yeah, exactly. Let's not be the bosses who people don't want to reconnect to. Let's not be bosses who are seen as withdrawals. Let's be bosses, kahit mahirap tayo. Like I guess I'm plugging like we have another idea in Covey called multipliers. In multipliers, it says that the best bosses can exhaust you, but you're so fulfilled as a team member. You feel so stretched, you feel drained, but at the end of it all, wow, I've grown. My boss was difficult, but my boss helped me grow in my career, diba? So that is also a gift. It might not feel like a gift, but you're depositing. So again, EBA tayo, EBA. All right. Okay, meaningful gift giving. Okay, we'll give you some more tips. Yeah, we'll give you a final set of tips. Family, friends, team members, colleagues, leaders, the invisible ones like the back room, maintenance, contractuals, the ones we don't really know personally, like those who prepare your payslips. You may not know them. But yeah, those who remit to SSS and BIR, sila. Yan. Importante sila. All right.
Yes, and yet they are so important, no?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And even if you don't know them, even if your gift is generic, just noticing them. And that's something as a psychologist is really big now. The idea that when you're noticed, that by itself, diba, you're noticed in a crowd, that by itself is already such a big deal. So um, like part of my work, part of my off time work is my wife and I we work with the youth in our Catholic community, and one thing that we do, one of our jobs is that we go around and when we're at events, we look for those who seem lost, who seem very shy, who don't have friends yet. And we make it a point to really go to them, as in we intentionally look for them and we connect them with the other kids. Because they're teeners, eh, so they're awkward, they're medyo shy, they're cliquish. Eh. So that's part of the meaningful gifts we give, diba? Just really noticing. And again, I might not see this child again. Diba? It might not be part of my immediate circle yet, but that doesn't matter because if our focus is it's mutually enriching. Okay? It helped the child, but it also helped me serve also. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Right. Sige. So, for our two last exercises, this one will be our final annotate. All right. So, looking here, please stamp on what is life call? What is this season calling you to do? Okay, what is this season calling you to do? You may stamp on any number of things there, or you may just put it on the chat. If you cannot stamp, just put it on the chat. So looking at this final list, and these are our three categories. All right, intentionality is our mindset. All right, the relationship talks about understanding. The outcome is greater EBA. All right, so as I put everything together now, before we go to our final, so these are just our ideas. Our final activity will be for you to personalize it to yourself. Yeah, all right, so we're almost done. Thank you for hanging on. We're almost there. So just here, just a final list of ideas. But what I'd like you to pay attention to are the categories about our mode, our approach, our mindset of intentionality, um, uh, the relationship that we're looking at, which is the understanding, and the eventual impact to our EBA. So let's look at what seems to be striking sa inyo. Okay. The idea of just building the relationship. So the first column is really about our basic mindset. Okay, the second is leads us to personalization. That's why the relationship is there. And the last is looking at its effect on our EBA. All right. Okay. So thank you, feeling valued, impacting needs and preference. So true with me, it's really, I'm still at the true deposits, still figuring out and honing my, I guess my, not just capacity, but my interest. Di ba, Pao, minsan, kaya mo namang gawin, pero interest, I mean, are you even interested in doing that? Eh? So me, I think it's my whole spirit of really wanting to do it. Eh. I think ability, I can do it. I'm a good listener. I can observe, but wanting to do it, eh. I think that's where I am.
Agree. Agree.
Ikaw pa, dyan sa list na yan, what did you stamp there?
Actually, I stamped build and strengthen, identify true deposits, and
Same
positive.
tayo. Is it
Same
our
tayo,
age? Is it our age? I'm not sure.
yeah.
Test
Maybe.
natin. Ikaw,
Maybe.
Zaira, what did you stamp? Let's test our age theory.
Understand needs and preferences.
Okay. Yeah.
Close enough, close enough.
Close
Hindi pa
enough.
tayo
Close
ganun
enough.
kalayo eh.
Deepen. Someone put a line on deepen. Yeah. So again, you might have a good EBA, but you want it to even be better. All right. So yeah, finally, let's clear the screen, Zaira. Let's go to our quick action plan. So I'll give you a minute to fill this in. You may take a screenshot if you like. Okay. Um, look at so let's make your action plan. So self-reflection, but more of an application. So for the final minute before I close and hand off back to Paolo, um, what deposit would you like to make? So pick a role, your role. All right. So role is you, key person is the recipient. So role might be, for example, let's say boss. So key person would be team member A, team member B. You might be role would be family member. Key person might be child, spouse, brother, parent. All right. So I'll give you a minute for that. So fill this in and make this the minimum fruit of your stay with us the past hour and a half. What will you do? All right. Okay. And so last two, I'll just leave with you two thoughts from this quote from Maya Angelou. When we give cheerfully and accept gratefully, everyone is blessed. So it's mutually beneficial, building our EBA. So our disposition, whether both giving and receiving, and making sure it is meaningful and mutual. Finally, this season, may your gifts fill hearts and not just the feet of our Christmas trees. So make sure there is a difference, engagement to listening to our EBAs. And with that, I'd like to turn you over to Paulo.
Thank you, Eric. So now, as we close, I just like to reiterate a few things that Eric mentioned. So we hope that this was meaningful for you. First of all, we've tried to make this as relevant to you and what you're going through this season as much as possible. And at the same time, for those of you who are interested, a few things. So you may be wondering, what does this have to do with Franklin Covey? Eric did share a few mindsets and also a few of the courses. So just to mention, the content in this session borrowed from a few of our courses, namely the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the 6 Critical Practices to Effectively Leading a Team, the 5 Choices, and also a bit from Trust, and as Eric said, multipliers. So you may wonder where those came in. So 7 Habits was really the backbone. It came in the EBA, empathy, and also just the sense of intentionality. The 6 critical practices came in the directly engaging one-on-ones, having regular conversations to understand your team members and the people who are important in your lives. Trust came in terms of building trust and having that sense of intentionality, being aware of expectations. And then, as Eric mentioned, multipliers is really just having that sense of wanting to make a positive impact with the people that are around you, your team members professionally, and those in your family and friends. So, if there are no other questions or comments or any feedback, we'd like to thank you again for joining us this morning, Eric. Thank you again. As always, great session being with you. Thank you for those who joined us. And we hope you have a good rest of the day and have a great, meaningful holiday season.